Do you believe in coincidence? I don't. Because if you're an Aquarius, or if Aquarius energy lives anywhere in your birth chart, then the moment you stop to listen to this, it wasn't random. It was an invitation from the universe, from the soul of the father you once lost, and maybe even deeper than that, from the part of you that never got to say goodbye. When everything around you slows down, when even time seems to hold its breath, that's when a message begins its journey to you. Not through words, not through a call or an email, but through something quieter, something deeper, where your intuition and your heart meet in silence. Your father's soul hasn't fully left because there's something he never said, and in a strange, sacred way, he chose you. The one who carries the wind, the light, and the quiet spaces in between. I know Aquarius doesn't get swept away easily. You watch the world from above, from afar. You analyze, you observe, you break things down with logic and clarity. But you're also the water bearer, and water remembers. It holds what no one else sees. It carries the gaps, the silences, the empty places that your father once left behind. You don't have to believe in miracles. Just sit still, close your eyes, and ask yourself honestly, when was the last time I truly thought of my father? Not as a memory, but as a soul that still exists, quiet near, maybe just one breath away. Maybe he never held you long enough. Maybe he never said, "I'm proud of you." Maybe he left when so many things were still unsaid. And maybe that's why there's a thread, invisible but unbreakable, tying two worlds together. He's still there, waiting for you to open the door to your heart just once more. I once spoke with a woman in her 40s, an Aquarius. A brilliant designer, mother of two, running her own creative agency. She told me whenever the wind whistles through her window, it feels like her father is standing outside, just watching, never saying a word. And in those moments, she feels like a little girl again, back in that backyard, waiting for him to come home from work. She never told anyone that, because she thought she was too rational to believe in signs. But when you've built a life, checked all the boxes, and still feel like something is missing, that something is rarely material. It's usually a touch that never came. Aquarius often spends a lifetime looking outward, serving the future, helping the world, fighting for humanity. But sometimes, they forget the healing they need inside, and the very first person who ever taught them how to exist was their father. If something is rising in your chest right now, some nameless, quiet feeling, don't try to explain it. Let it move, like water, like a ray of light breaking through the thickest clouds. And if you truly want to open that sacred connection, try this. Write these words. Just once in your life, I am ready to hear what my father never got to say. Not to summon him, but to open your heart, and when your heart opens, his soul will know the way home. Some words never die. They simply wait for the right person, the right moment to be healed. And now that the door has opened, maybe you're wondering, why you? Why Aquarius? What is it in the soul of this sign that a father would choose you to deliver his final message? Some relationships, from the very beginning, were never meant to be named, like sitting across from your father for years, without ever truly understanding what he was thinking. He sat there, you sat here, and in between was just enough distance to keep you from reaching each other, and just close enough to see all the things that were never spoken. For Aquarius, the father-child bond is rarely simple. It doesn't come from warm hugs. It doesn't come from everyday advice. It comes in fragments, signals, like a strange language that both of you used, but neither of you ever fully understood. You were born under a sign of vision, of intelligence, of asking questions no one else dares to ask. And your father, full of love but shaped by structure, sometimes didn't know how to love you the way you needed. Many Aquarians have told me, my father wasn't a bad man, but still they carry a vast emptiness in their hearts, as if there was something they once needed, a word of approval, a gentle look, a presence so soft it didn't even need to speak, but they never received it. I still remember an Aquarius man in his 50s, a doctor, a respected teacher, a devoted father himself, but when I asked about his father, he went quiet, then simply said, "My father was good, but I don't think I ever saw him smile when he looked at me. My whole childhood I kept doing things hoping to see that light in his eyes, but it never came. And sometimes, what we ache for all our lives is simply the look we never got to see. Uranus, your ruling planet, is about awakening, freedom, going beyond what is normal. But it also brings a sacred kind of loneliness. It pushes Aquarius forward, separates you from the ordinary, and leaves you living like a stranger, even in your own home. In that space of distance, a father can become a blur, a chill, even a concept too abstract to touch, not because he didn't love you, but because two souls didn't have enough time to learn how to understand each other before one of them left. Have you ever felt that, laughing in a crowd, but suddenly lost in an old memory, remembering an expression, and not knowing if it was real or just something you wished for? Hearing your father's name somewhere, and for a second, your heart breaks in silence. Here's something we need to say out loud. Not everyone is born into the love they need, and not every father knows how to father a child like you, a child who didn't need to be told who to become, but only needed to be accepted as they already were. So if you've ever felt unseen, misunderstood, never fully embraced, that's not your fault, and it's not your father's fault either. It's simply one of life's quiet truths. Two souls on different frequencies never got the chance to tune in to one another. But here's the beauty. The soul doesn't need time to heal. It only needs an honest call. And sometimes when your father is no longer here, that's when he starts hearing you more clearly than ever before. You may not see him, but he's present, in the morning light through your window, in a fleeting dream without words, in a song that suddenly moves you to tears. And if you listen just a little closer, you might realize he's been trying to say something that was never spoken in this lifetime, but the soul still remembers, still holds, still waits for the moment it can finally be said. So now the question becomes, when he's no longer with you in body, how can you know he's reaching out from the other side? Is there a way to recognize the signal through all the noise of this world? There are moments in life that have no name, but they make you stop in your tracks, as if someone brushed your shoulder gently with a current of soft, invisible energy and then vanished into the air. You turn around. No one's there, but your heart knows something just happened. A presence, a whisper, a memory that never grew old. For Aquarius, the sign of cosmic intelligence and wide vision, soul messages don't come loudly. They arrive like radio waves. You have to be still, sensitive, quiet enough to catch the signal. It might come in numbers that repeat over and over. 11, 11, 22, 22, making you pause at your phone longer than usual. It could be an old song playing out of nowhere at a gas station at midnight, the one your father used to love. It could be a beam of light piercing through the window, the moment you were thinking of him, or a dream you wake up from with the undeniable sense that he had just been there, even though no words were spoken. Aquarius doesn't easily believe in the invisible, and yet you're one of the few souls who can feel the deeper currents of life, where intuition and electricity dance together. You don't need to prove it with logic. Just remember this: when goosebumps rise out of nowhere, when your mind goes quiet, in the middle of a chaotic day, that might be the moment. Your father's soul is visiting just to check in, just to see how you're doing. I once heard a woman say, every time she drove past the cemetery, even without meaning to stop, her car radio would buzz, just a little, every single time. And when she finally gave in, pulled over and lit incense for her father, everything went back to normal. She didn't try to explain it. She just said, "I'm no longer afraid of what I don't understand. I know it was him." Science may never prove love after death, but the soul doesn't need science to feel. It only needs you to listen. And if you've ever dreamed of your father, even once, please don't dismiss it as just a dream, because maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a real meeting between two souls, beyond time, beyond space, beyond the veil between life and death. When a father's soul returns, he doesn't come back to reopen the pain. He comes back because there's still something he needs to say. Something only you are sensitive enough to hear, strong enough to hold, and grown enough to turn into light. You may have felt it already, but you doubted yourself, brushed it off as just a strange emotion. But if right now your heart knows what I'm saying is true, then write it down. No need to explain, No need for anyone else to believe, just right. I've heard their soul call my name. And let that be the doorway to a sacred reunion, because when your father's soul sends a message, it is never random. He sends it because he believes you are ready. But what is it that makes him reach out so urgently now? Why now, in the middle of your busy, grown-up life, does he choose to appear? Maybe it's because he has 3 things left to say, 3 final messages, that if you truly understand them, you won't just forgive, you won't just heal, you'll finally come home to yourself. Sometimes what keeps a soul from moving on isn't grief, it's the words never spoken, the feelings never acknowledged, the truths a father carried quietly all the way to his final breath. For many, a father's passing feels like an ending. But for you, Aquarius, it's only the beginning of a deeper dialogue, one that crosses the edges of time, where he still stands in the dim light looking toward you with eyes that if you close yours long enough you can almost feel. And if he could speak now, if he could choose just 3 things to send you before it's too late, they might be these. First, he would ask, what are you living for, your soul's mission, or a clever way of running from pain? Because sometimes the success you've built isn't because you wanted to go far, it's because you were afraid to go back, afraid to look, afraid to meet your own eyes in the mirror, eyes that once held dreams, once shone bright when you thought about the future. Before life grew so heavy you had to shut your feelings off just to keep moving. Second, he would remind you, don't forget what you once dreamed of before this world wore you down, before demands, expectations, and coldness pulled you away like a leaf in the current. Don't forget what once made your heart beat faster. Don't forget the light you once saw inside yourself, the light that never went out. You only left it behind too far back. And finally, his truth. He does not blame you, never did, even when you went far away, even when you stayed silent, even when you weren't there as he left this world. He does not blame you. He only fears you'll forget yourself. Forget the pure soul he once saw in your eyes when you were a child. Forget why you came here, not to please anyone but to live fully as who you really are. A father's love doesn't end with death. It only changes form, from a gaze into a memory, from a voice into a quiet space, from an embrace into a soft wind brushing past you as you stand on the edge of a big decision. That love is still here, sometimes hidden in the scent of an old shirt, sometimes appearing in a midnight dream, sometimes in the moment you pull your car over, tears falling without knowing why. I once had an older listener call my radio show at 3 a.m. He said he had no one left in the world except for a note his father once wrote on a small card. I've kept it in my wallet for 30 years, he told me. Every time I'm about to give up, I take it out and read it. It keeps me going. And that's when I understood love, once rooted deep in memory, can become a map the soul always knows how to follow back home. You too, Aquarius. You are the unfinished part of your father's dream. You are the continuation of what he never got to live. The message he placed quietly in your heart for you to carry, continue, and light again in your own way. And now that you've heard these things, the larger question is, what will you do with them? Can you turn a soul's message into a living action? Can you make an unspoken word into a real heartbeat in your everyday life? Because some loves aren't meant to be only remembered. They're meant to be continued by living kinder, forgiving more, and stepping forward this time with an open heart, no longer hiding. And maybe just one action, a letter, a candle lit for your father, a kind deed you do in his name, can become the bridge between two worlds, a bridge where his soul can finally smile in peace. Because at last, you heard him. There are moments in life when we don't need answers, we just need one action. A simple, honest gesture like placing your hand over your heart and whispering to yourself, I still remember you, Dad, and I'm still alive. Healing doesn't always take a long or complicated journey. Sometimes it begins with something small, a letter, a piece of paper, a few lines, written from a heart still wet with tears, written without editing, without planning, written as if your father is sitting right in front of you, quietly waiting to hear the things you never got to say. Let your hand speak the words your mouth once swallowed. Let the clumsy, trembling sentences become a bridge between two worlds, You don't need to send it anywhere. Just write, fold it, keep it somewhere sacred, because the moment you write, a new frequency opens. A thread of light begins to flow from your heart straight toward your father's soul. I once met a man nearly 70. His wife had passed. His children lived far away. He lived alone with an old wooden desk and one drawer filled only with letters, but not letters others wrote to him. These were hundreds of letters he'd written to the father he never met. His dad had died in a war before he was born. I write so my father knows I don't blame him for leaving too soon, he told me. I write to forgive him for something he never did wrong. And you, Aquarius, the one who lives in the future, in vision and light, you also need something that grounds you. Something real, something not from the mind, but from the soul. Do something kind on your father's behalf. Help someone who's lost hope. Hold the hand of someone who's lost their way. Share the wisdom you learned today. And when you do, say quietly in your heart, Dad, I'm doing this because I know, if you were still here, you would have done the same. When you turn love into action, you keep your father's soul alive, not in the past, but in this very moment, alive. And if you've studied astrology, you might know the 4th house on your birth chart represents roots, family, ancestral memory. If Jupiter, the planet of growth, blessings, and purpose, is passing through your 4th house, this could be a sacred window, a golden time to honor your father. Maybe it's an art project he once dreamed of. Maybe a trip he wanted to take with you. Or maybe simply a loving act you offer to the world, just as he once showed you through the way he lived. Because every time you live one day true to your soul, you complete a part of the mission he never got to finish. And that could open doors you were once too afraid to knock on, not because you're luckier than anyone else, but because you're living in the frequency of gratitude, the soul of your father, and your own. If you've listened this far, I invite you to write just one sentence. Just one, but let it be powerful. I am ready to live a life my father would be proud of. Write it by hand, read it with your heart, and let that sentence become the first heartbeat of a new life, a life that doesn't run from the past, but embraces it as a guiding light, because love doesn't have to be present to be real. It only needs to be continued through you, and maybe, just maybe, you haven't realized this yet, but on this path, you're carrying more than just a father's love. You're carrying a promise, something ancient, something deep, a seed your ancestors planted long ago, but never had the chance to see bloom. I don't know if you believe this, but inside each of us, there's a dream that doesn't fully belong to us. A part of us is alive to finish something someone else once longed for but never had the chance to complete. And that someone might be your father. Have you ever felt pulled toward a path that no one in your family ever walked? A career, a kind of art, a deep desire to live a meaningful life, as if it wasn't born inside you but planted in your heart long ago, like a silent message waiting to be heard. Aquarius, the water bearer, you don't just carry light into the future. You are the vessel for invisible memories, left behind by your ancestors. You are not living alone. You are the continuation. Your father may have once dreamed of being a painter, but chose the military. He might have wanted to become a musician, but stayed silent to provide for the family. Maybe he dreamed of freedom, but the world forced him into rigid choices. And now, there's a part of you that aches for creativity, for freedom, for speaking your truth, and you don't even know why. It's not random, it's a red thread. A quiet mission passed through the bloodstream, a song unfinished, now waiting for you to write the final notes. I once heard an Aquarius woman say she'd always been drawn to farming, even though she was born and raised in the city. It wasn't until she turned 36 that she discovered her father had once studied gardening in France before giving up the dream. She cried, not because of what was lost, but because she finally understood why she always felt like something inside her was waiting to be lived. You see, there are desires the mind can't explain. There are actions guided only by the soul. Aquarius lives in the future, but you are also a doorway through which the past can be healed. Within you is the echo of ancestors, the unblinking eyes of those who once sacrificed, once stayed silent, once buried their truth. And now they trust you, the water bearer, to pour their unspoken wishes into the world. You're not just living, you are continuing a soul stream that flows across generations, continuing a prayer left unfinished, continuing something that without you would vanish forever into silence. So if today you find yourself walking a path no one else understands, don't turn back. If you feel different, misunderstood, out of place, don't call it being lost. Maybe you're not lost at all. Maybe you're leading the way for an entire bloodline that's been waiting for the light to return. And if you've ever wondered, am I walking this path alone? Let me tell you, no, your Father is walking with you. Not as a shadow, but as energy, as a gaze, as a whisper in your heart, the moment you're about to give up. Keep going, my child, because I never got to go this far. And if you've wandered too far from yourself, if you feel disconnected from your roots, know this: there's always a way back, because the sacred fire within you never goes out. It's only waiting for you to sit still, take one deep breath, and ask yourself, am I still living with my true soul? There are moments in life that don't need another explanation, just a quiet nod to yourself, as if after all the turns, all the choices, all that was lost, and all that couldn't be held, you finally stop. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to stop running. You've gone far, Aquarius, so far that you nearly lost yourself. Somewhere between the light and your ideals, between your responsibilities and the quiet longings you never had the words for, but your Father, in his own quiet way, through dreams, through subtle signs, through those sudden moments, your heart clenches for no reason. He's been calling you back, not back to the past, but back to your true soul. You don't have to keep pushing just to survive. You don't have to become something grand to be worthy of the love he once gave you. He never asked for that. The only thing he ever wanted was for you to live fully, to live the way you used to dream as a child, when your eyes were wide and your heart was still whole. Maybe you thought you'd lost your way, but maybe you were only finding the road back to where your light first began, where your Father, though long gone, is still present, not in form, but in every kind thing you do, in the way you soften toward a stranger, in the way you rise after every fall without blaming fate. Because real love, a father's love, doesn't end at goodbye. It becomes light. It becomes strength. And if you allow it, it can become the compass for the rest of your life. Let your memories stop being pain and start being a quiet light that guides your way, so you wake up each day, not just out of duty, but because something inside you whispers, live in a way that honors the love your Father once planted in this world through you. You are the continuation. You are the answer. You are the promise that life will be lived fully. And if there's ever been a moment when you felt you lost yourself, then hear this, a gentle reminder from the other side of the veil: you're not lost. You're simply on your way home. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. Thank you for pausing, for opening, and for choosing to keep going with a softer soul. Though your Father may no longer be here in the form you knew, his love lives on in you like a quiet current, steady and deep. May you find peace in every breath. May you find light in every step. And may you find yourself again, a fuller, brighter version of the soul he once held in his arms. May you live like a beam of light your Father can smile upon from somewhere far away, and yet so very close.